I'll be honest, this story still makes my hands shake. The first time I saw my wedding dress, it was not too small by accident. It fit my best friend perfectly. I found that out 3 weeks before my wedding, standing barefoot in a bridal shop in Charleston, South Carolina, while my mother cried behind me and the seamstress kept saying, maybe we ordered the wrong size. But we hadn't, because the dress had my name on the garment bag. My name, my wedding date, my deposit receipt, and every detail I had chosen 6 months earlier. Except somehow, it had been ordered in a size I had not worn since college. And the strangest part was not even the dress. The strangest part was the look on Madison's face. Madison was my best friend. At least, that was what I called her back then. She stood near the mirror with one hand over her mouth, acting shocked. Her eyes were wide, her eyebrows lifted, her voice soft and sweet. "Oh my God, Claire," she whispered. "This is awful." But she did not look awful. She looked ready. That is the only word I can use now. Ready. Like a woman who had been waiting for a door to open. I was 34 years old, engaged to a man named Daniel, and I thought I was finally getting the peaceful life I had earned. I had survived one painful breakup in my late 20s, rebuilt my savings, bought a small townhouse, and learned how to sleep alone without feeling like it meant failure. Then Daniel came along. He was steady, charming, polite to waiters, close with his family, and the kind of man who remembered small things. My coffee order. My work deadlines. The exact kind of migraine medicine I needed when stress locked behind my eyes. When he proposed on Folly Beach, I did not scream. I just started crying. Because it felt like life had stopped punishing me. Madison was the first person I called. She had been my friend since our first year working at a marketing agency in Atlanta. We were both broke, both ambitious, both eating dinner from vending machines at 9 at night. She had seen me through layoffs, bad dates, moving trucks, and nights when I could not get out of bed. So when she offered to help plan the wedding, I felt grateful. More than grateful. Relieved. I was working full-time as an account director, and Daniel had just been promoted at his logistics company. We were busy, tired, and trying to plan a wedding for 140 people without losing our minds. Madison made everything easier. At first, she created spreadsheets. She called vendors. She negotiated with the florist. She found the photographer. She even made a shared email account so nothing would get lost. "Trust me," she said, smiling over her laptop one Sunday afternoon. "You should enjoy being engaged. Let me handle the ugly stuff." I hugged her. I actually hugged her. That is the part one hate remembering. Because I handed her everything. The vendor passwords. The wedding website login. The bridal appointment calendar. The seating chart. The hotel block information. Even Daniel's number, because she said it would be easier to coordinate surprises for me. That sounded sweet at the time. It did not sound dangerous. Not yet. The first strange thing happened with the flowers. I had chosen white peonies and soft greenery. Simple, elegant, southern, with candles everywhere. Madison said it matched me perfectly. Then one afternoon, the florist called to confirm the final invoice. She mentioned blush roses, pink orchids, and the dramatic red accent pieces requested by the bride. I laughed because I thought she was joking. "I didn't request red," I said. There was a pause. "Oh," the florist said carefully. "I have that change in writing." She forwarded the email. It came from the shared wedding account. Signed with my name. I stared at it for a long time, feeling something cold move through my chest. When I asked Madison, she slapped her forehead like a sitcom actress. "Oh my gosh, Claire, I'm so sorry. That was my fault. I was helping my cousin with her baby shower mood board, and I must have mixed up the files." It sounded ridiculous. But she said it with such panic, such embarrassment, that I comforted her. That became the pattern. Something went wrong. Madison apologized. I felt guilty for doubting her. Then I thanked her for fixing it. The cake flavor changed from lemon elderflower to dark chocolate raspberry. The DJ suddenly had a playlist full of songs I hated. The photographer asked why I wanted so many candid bride and maid of honor moments. And every time, Madison had an answer. A misunderstanding. A typo. A vendor mistake. A glitch. Daniel told me not to worry. She's doing a lot for us, he said one night, rubbing my shoulders while I sat at the kitchen island surrounded by invoices. Maybe cut her some slack. Us. That word should have felt comforting. Instead, it bothered me. Because lately, Daniel and Madison said us too easily. They had inside jokes about vendor calls. They texted about appointment times without copying me. Once, I walked into the living room and heard Daniel laughing in a way I had not heard in weeks. When I asked what was funny, he turned his phone face down. Madison, sitting beside him with a glass of wine, answered before he could. Just wedding chaos, she said. Then she smiled at me. A warm smile. A familiar smile. But something behind it felt locked. The dress appointment was supposed to make everything feel real again. My mother drove down from Raleigh. Daniel's sister took the afternoon off. Madison brought champagne and made a big show of telling everyone I was going to look like the perfect bride. Then the seamstress zipped the dress halfway and stopped. The room went quiet. I could not breathe in it. The waist dug into my ribs. The fabric pulled across my hips. The zipper would not move another inch. My mother said, "Honey, this can't be right." Madison rushed forward, touching the lace like it belonged to her. "Oh no," she whispered. "Claire." And for one strange second, while everyone looked at me with pity, Madison looked at herself in the mirror. Not fully, just a quick glance. But I saw it. She was imagining it. The dress, the veil, the aisle, my place. I swallowed hard and turned to the seamstress. "Can you check the order form?" I asked. The woman disappeared into the back room. Madison reached for my hand, but I pulled away before I could stop myself. Her face changed, only for a second. Then the seamstress came back holding a printed form. Her voice was careful. "This was the size confirmed by email," she said. I took the paper from her hand. The confirmation had come from the shared wedding account. But underneath the typed signature was a phone number for verification. Not mine. Madison's. I looked up slowly. She had gone pale. Before I could say a word, Daniel's sister stepped closer to the paper and frowned. "Wait," she said. "Why is Madison listed as the bride?" For a few seconds, nobody moved. The bridal shop went so quiet I could hear traffic outside. Daniel's sister, Erin, was still holding the order form like it had burned her fingers. My mother stood behind me, one hand pressed against her chest, staring at Madison as if she had never seen her before. Madison blinked fast. Then she laughed. It was small, nervous, almost offended. "That's obviously a clerical error," she said. "Come on, Claire. You know that." I wanted to believe her. That was the sickest part. Even standing there half-zipped into a dress that humiliated me, even seeing her name where mine should have been, some tired part of me still wanted the simple explanation. A typo. A mistake. Another vendor problem. Because the other option was too ugly to touch. The seamstress cleared her throat. "We don't usually write bride unless someone confirms it," she said. Madison's face tightened. "Well, I confirmed a lot of things," she snapped. "Because Claire asked me to help." Her tone shifted the whole room. Until then, she had been sweet, soft, wounded. Now she sounded angry. Like I had embarrassed her. Like I had done something wrong by noticing. I stepped down from the little platform, holding the dress against my chest. The zipper scratched my back, and the lace felt suddenly cheap against my skin. "Why is your number on my dress order?" I asked. Madison looked at me, then at my mother, then at Erin. Her eyes filled with tears so quickly it almost impressed me. "Because you were overwhelmed," she said. "You gave me the vendor calls. You told me to handle things. I was trying to protect you." That word hit me strangely. Protect. From what? My own wedding? My own choices? My own name? My mother took one step forward. "Claire," she said quietly, "take the dress off." I did not argue. In the fitting room, my hands shook so hard I could barely pull the fabric down. I heard muffled voices outside, Madison crying, Erin asking questions, my mother saying my name like she was afraid I might disappear. When I came out in my jeans and sweater, Madison was wiping her face. She looked smaller now. Not guilty exactly. Cornered. "Can we please not do this here?" she whispered. And I hated how familiar that voice was. That was the voice she used after bad dates, after work fights, after telling me she felt invisible next to women who got picked first. For years, I had comforted that voice. So I said yes. Not because I forgave her, because I needed air. We left the bridal shop without the dress. My mother wanted me to come home with her, but I said I needed to talk to Daniel first. Erin offered to drive me. Madison insisted she could explain everything over coffee. I told her no. One word. No. She stared at me like I had slapped her. Then she got into her white SUV and slammed the door. That should have been the moment I stopped trusting her. But betrayal is rarely clean. It comes with memories attached. On the drive home, Erin kept looking at me from the passenger seat. "Claire," she said finally, "I need to ask you something." My stomach tightened. "What?" She hesitated. "Has Daniel seemed different with her?" I gripped the steering wheel harder. The highway blurred ahead of me. "What do you mean?" Erin looked uncomfortable, which scared me more than anything. "At my parents' barbecue last month," she said, "I walked into the garage, and they were in there together." My throat went dry. "Doing what?" "Nothing obvious," she said quickly. "Just talking." But when I opened the door, they stopped. Like teenagers. I remembered that barbecue. Madison had worn a yellow sundress and brought a peach cobbler she said Daniel loved. I had laughed at that because Daniel did love peach cobbler. I thought it was thoughtful. Now it felt rehearsed. Erin continued, softer this time. She had her hand on his arm. I did not cry. Not yet. Something inside me went still instead. That stillness scared me. When I got home, Daniel's truck was in the driveway. He was in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone, still in his work shirt. He looked up smiling, but the smile faded when he saw my face. "Babe," he said. "What happened?" I put the dress order form on the counter. He glanced down. Not long enough. That was the first thing I noticed. He did not read it like a shocked man. He looked at it like a man recognizing a problem. "Why is Madison listed as the bride?" I asked. Daniel rubbed his jaw. "Claire, don't start spiraling." The words landed like ice water. Not what? Not, "That's insane." Not, "Let me see." Don't start spiraling. I stared at him. "You knew." His eyes flashed toward the hallway, then back to me. "No. I mean, I knew she was helping with vendor stuff. With my dress. She was trying to fix things." "What things?" He exhaled, irritated now. "You're stressed, Claire. You've been impossible lately." Impossible. I almost laughed. I was planning a wedding while working 50 hours a week. I was paying half the deposits from my savings. I was trying to keep peace between families, vendors, and a best friend who kept changing my choices behind my back. And somehow, I was the problem. Erin stood near the door, arms crossed. "Daniel," she said, "answer her." He turned on his sister. "Stay out of this." That was when my phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then again. I looked down. 3 texts from Madison. The first said, "Please don't let Erin poison this." The second said, "Daniel already knows the truth." The third made my whole body go cold. "He was going to tell you after the wedding." I read that message 3 times. He was going to tell you after the wedding. The kitchen seemed to tilt around me. Daniel reached for my phone, but I pulled it back. His face changed when he realized what I had seen. Not fear exactly. More like frustration. Like Madison had broken some agreement by texting too soon. That was worse than panic. Because panic means surprise. Frustration means planning. What was she talking about? I asked. Daniel looked at Erin, then at me. "Can we not do this with an audience?" Erin laughed once, sharp and cold. "An audience," she said. "I'm your sister." He ignored her. "Claire, Madison has been emotional lately," he said. "You know how she gets." I knew exactly how Madison got. She got fragile when people questioned her. She got helpful when she wanted control. She got wounded when she needed sympathy. And somehow, for 7 years, I had mistaken all of that for love. My phone buzzed again. This time, Madison was calling. Her photo filled the screen, a picture of us from my engagement party. She was hugging me from behind, her chin on my shoulder, smiling wider than I was. I let it ring. Daniel watched the screen like it was a ticking bomb. "Answer it," he said. That made my stomach drop. "Why?" "Because this is getting ridiculous." "No," I said. "What's ridiculous is my best friend being listed as the bride." He dragged both hands over his face. "God, Claire, it was not like that." Those 5 words did something to me. Because people only say that when there is a that. I put the phone on speaker. Madison's voice came through instantly. "Claire? Please listen before you judge me." Daniel closed his eyes. Aaron whispered, "Oh my God." I stood very still. "Start talking," I said. Madison breathed shakily. "I never wanted to hurt you." That sentence is never the beginning of something harmless. She started crying, but it sounded different now. Not broken. Practiced. "I just wanted one thing in my life to feel beautiful," she said. "You have everything, Claire. The house, the career, Daniel, the perfect family." And I know that sounds awful, but I was drowning. I looked at Daniel. He was staring at the counter. Not at me. The silence between them had a shape. A history. "How long?" I asked. Madison went quiet. Daniel said my name. I screamed it this time. "How long?" Madison answered first. "Since your engagement party." My hand went numb around the phone. The engagement party had been 8 months earlier. The night Daniel gave a toast about choosing me every day. The night Madison cried in the bathroom and said she was just happy for me. The night I held her hand and promised she would find her person too. I remembered Daniel disappearing for 20 minutes to get more ice. I remembered Madison coming back with red cheeks. I remembered asking if she was okay. She had smiled and said, "I'm just emotional." Now every sweet memory had teeth. Daniel stepped toward me. "It was one kiss," he said. Madison made a sound through the phone. That tiny sound betrayed him. One helpless little breath. I looked at the speaker. "Madison." She did not answer. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Don't," he warned her. And there it was. Not guilt. Not confusion. A warning. My fiancé was warning my best friend not to tell me the truth. Erin grabbed her purse from the chair. "I'm calling Mom," she said. Daniel snapped, "You're not calling anybody." But she was already walking outside. I stayed in the kitchen because my legs would not move. Madison finally spoke again. "It wasn't physical after that," she whispered. "Not really. Not really." 2 words that can destroy an entire life. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we were close," Daniel said quickly. "Emotionally." She helped me understand things. I almost smiled. That was how he chose to say it. She helped him understand things. While I was choosing napkin colors and paying venue deposits, my best friend was apparently helping my fiancé understand his own heart. I looked at the fridge. Our save-the-date card was still there, held up by a magnet from Savannah. Claire and Daniel. September 14th. I had mailed 140 of those cards. I had written our names together like a promise. "What were you going to tell me after the wedding?" I asked. Daniel said nothing. Madison cried harder. That answered me before words did. I picked up the phone. "Say it." Madison whispered. He was confused. "No. Say what you were going to tell me." Daniel hit the counter with his palm. "Enough." I flinched, and that made him freeze. He had never hit anything near me before. The room went silent. Then Madison said the words that split my life in half. "We thought, maybe after the wedding, you'd understand that he needed time." I stared at the phone. Needed time. Not to cancel the wedding. Not to be honest. Not to stop. He needed time. With my vows. My money. My dress. My family watching. My name still attached to everything. Suddenly, the wrong dress made perfect sense. Madison had not just made a mistake. She had been rehearsing. The dress, the flowers, the songs, the photos. She had been slowly replacing my choices with hers. And Daniel had let her. Maybe even encouraged it. I picked up the order form from the counter and folded it once. Then twice. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "Daniel, give me your phone." His face went blank. "What?" "Your phone," I said. "Right now." He gave a dry laugh. "Absolutely not." I nodded slowly. That was the final answer I needed. Then my own phone buzzed again. Not Madison this time. It was an email from our wedding photographer. The subject line said, "Final shot list confirmed bride and groom first look." I opened it with shaking fingers. At the top of the document was a timeline for our wedding day, but my name was missing from one section. Under private first look, it said, Daniel and Madison, 3:15 p.m. I stared at that wedding timeline until the words stopped looking real. Daniel and Madison, 3:15 p.m. Not Daniel and Claire. Not bride and groom. Daniel and Madison. For a moment, my mind tried to protect me by making excuses. Maybe the photographer had copied the wrong name. Maybe Madison had been listed because she was helping coordinate the first look. Maybe there was some stupid, harmless explanation hiding behind the ugliest sentence I had ever read. But deep down, I already knew. This was not a mistake. This was a rehearsal for my own disappearance. Daniel stood across the kitchen watching my face, and when he saw what I had opened, his expression changed in a way I will never forget. His shoulders dropped, his mouth tightened, and for the first time that day, he actually looked afraid. Not afraid of losing me. Afraid of being exposed. I turned the phone toward him, my hand shaking so hard the screen blurred. "Why does the photographer have a private first look scheduled for you and Madison?" He did not answer right away, which was somehow louder than any confession. Madison was still on speaker, crying softly, but she had gone quiet too. I could hear her breathing on the other end, shallow and nervous, like she was sitting somewhere waiting to find out which lie would survive. Daniel rubbed his forehead and said, "Claire, you don't understand what that means." That almost broke something inside me. Because I was standing in my own kitchen, 3 weeks before my wedding, looking at proof that my fiancé and my best friend had planned a romantic wedding day moment without me, and he still had the nerve to tell me I did not understand. "No," I said, very slowly. "I think I understand more than I ever wanted to." He stepped toward me again. I stepped back. That tiny movement changed the air between us. For the first time in our relationship, I was not moving toward him to fix the problem. I was moving away from him because I finally understood he was the problem. Madison whispered through the phone, "Claire, it wasn't supposed to be like that." I laughed, but it came out broken. "Then what was it supposed to be like, Madison?" She sniffed. "It was supposed to be closure." Closure. That word felt so clean for something so filthy. Daniel closed his eyes like he wanted her to stop talking, but Madison kept going because people like her cannot resist making themselves the victim, even while standing over the mess they created. "He said he loved you," she whispered. "He said marrying you is the right thing. But he also said he couldn't just erase what happened between us." I looked at him, waiting for denial. He gave me nothing. No outrage. No, she's lying. No desperate attempt to save us. Just silence. And in that silence, 8 months of strange little moments lined up in my mind like evidence on a table. The secret texts. The vendor calls without me. The songs I never chose. The flowers I hated. The photos centered around Madison. The dress ordered in a size that would make me look ridiculous. Suddenly, it was not just betrayal. It was strategy. She had not been trying to ruin the wedding. She had been trying to turn it into hers. And Daniel, the man who kissed my forehead every morning and told me I was his home, had watched her do it. Maybe he had enjoyed watching us compete without telling me I was competing. I picked up the printed dress order again and read every line like a police report. Madison's number. Madison's email notes. Madison listed as bride. Madison approving changes. Madison confirming arrival times. Madison choosing what I would walk into on the day I was supposed to marry the man she wanted. That was the moment I thought, this is just insane. Not dramatic insane. Not wedding stress insane. Actual insane. Because I realized I had given my best friend the keys to my wedding, my relationship, my money, my reputation, and my peace, while she quietly built a version of my life where I was the obstacle. My mother walked back into the kitchen just then with Aaron behind her. Aaron must have called her from the driveway, because my mother's face had changed from worried to furious. She was not crying anymore. She looked like the woman who had raised me alone after my father left, The woman who could stretch one paycheck across a month and still teach me not to beg for love. "What is going on?" she asked. Daniel straightened, suddenly polite. "Linda, this is a private conversation." My mother looked at him like he had tracked mud across her clean floor. "Not when my daughter's wedding money is involved." Wedding money. The phrase hit me hard. Because until that second, I had been so focused on the emotional betrayal that I had forgotten the practical disaster waiting underneath it. The deposits, the venue, the catering, the photographer, the dress, the hotel rooms, the invitations. Almost everything had my credit card attached to it, and Madison had access to the shared account. I opened my banking app while everyone watched me. My fingers were clumsy, and my breathing came too fast, but I forced myself to check the pending charges. At first, it looked normal. Florist, rentals, final catering payment, beauty team deposit. Then I saw a charge I did not recognize. Magnolia House events, $4,800. My venue was not Magnolia House. My venue was the Harbor Room. I clicked the charge, feeling my stomach drop. The transaction had processed 2 days earlier. My mother moved closer. "Claire." I searched my email for Magnolia House. One confirmation appeared. The subject line said, "Bridal shower suite and private dinner reservation confirmed." I opened it. There was Madison's name. Not as maid of honor. Not as coordinator. As guest of honor. The reservation was for 12 people, including Daniel, at a boutique event space I had never heard of, scheduled for the Friday night before my wedding. Paid from the credit card I used for wedding expenses. Madison had thrown herself a bridal-style dinner with my money. I felt the floor vanish beneath me. Daniel glanced at the email and immediately said, "I was going to pay you back." That sentence told me everything. He knew. He had known about the charge. Maybe he had even been part of it. Madison started crying again through the phone. It wasn't a bridal dinner. It was just a small gathering. I needed support. My mother grabbed the phone off the counter and spoke into it with a calmness that scared even me. "Madison, you will not contact my daughter again unless it is through an attorney." Then she ended the call. For the first time all day, Madison had no voice in the room. Daniel looked at my mother, then at me, and something ugly passed over his face. "So that's it," he said. "You're letting everyone turn you against me?" I stared at him, almost amazed by the size of his nerve. "No, Daniel," I said. "You did that yourself." His jaw tightened. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. He had left it there when all this started. A message lit up the screen. From Madison. Only one line. "Don't let her find the contract." For one terrible second, nobody touched Daniel's phone. The message just sat there, glowing on the counter. "Don't let her find the contract." It looked so small on the screen, almost harmless, but something about those words made the whole kitchen feel colder. My mother saw it. Aaron saw it. Daniel saw us seeing it. Then he moved. He grabbed the phone so fast the chair scraped behind him, and that sudden panic told me more than any confession could have. Daniel had stayed calm through the dress, the first look, the fake dinner, even Madison being listed as the bride. But the contract scared him. "Give me the phone," I said. "No," he said, already backing away. My mother stepped between us before I could move closer. "Daniel," she said, her voice low and steady, "you need to leave this house." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "This is my fiancé's house too." "No," I said. He looked at me. I do not know what he saw on my face, but it made him pause. "This is my house," I said. "I bought it before you. Your name is not on the deed. And right now, that feels like the smartest thing I ever did." His expression twisted. For months, he had joked that after the wedding, it would finally be our place. He had talked about building a deck, changing the office into a nursery, putting both our names on everything because that was what married people did. Now I wondered how many of those sweet conversations had been patience. Not love. Patience. The kind a person has when they are waiting for access. Erin moved quietly to the table and opened her laptop, which she had brought from her car. She did not ask permission. She just looked at me and said, "Do you still have the shared wedding email logged in anywhere?" I nodded toward my office. My desktop. Daniel's head snapped toward me. Claire, don't do that. That was the wrong thing to say. Because until that moment, some small, wounded part of me had still hoped he would stop fighting me and start fighting for me. I wanted him to fall apart. I wanted him to say he was sorry. I wanted one piece of the man I loved to still be real. Instead, he protected the lie. So I walked past him. He reached for my arm, but my mother stepped in again. Touch her, she said, and I call the police. Daniel froze. I had never heard my mother speak like that. Neither had I. In the office, the wedding email was already open on my computer. The screen showed unread messages from vendors, reminders, invoice confirmations, all the little normal things that had made me feel busy and loved and overwhelmed. Now every subject line looked like evidence. Erin stood beside me, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Search contract, she said. I typed it in. 27 results appeared. Most were normal vendor agreements. Venue contract, catering contract, photography contract, beauty team contract. Then Erin pointed at one near the bottom. Madison Pierce Events, brand and creative services agreement. I stared at the subject line. Madison Pierce Events. I had never heard of Madison Pierce Events. Madison worked in social media strategy, not wedding planning. At least, that was what I thought. But when I opened the email, I saw a professional-looking contract attached with a pale gold logo at the top. My hands went numb before I even finished the first page. The agreement listed Daniel as the client, Madison Pierce Events as the service provider, and my wedding as the launch portfolio event. I read those words again, because they made no sense at first. Launch portfolio event. My wedding. My dress. My flowers. My guests. My family. My face walking down the aisle while my best friend used the whole thing to introduce herself as a luxury wedding designer. I kept scrolling. The contract said Madison would receive a $10,000 creative direction fee, payable from the wedding budget. It gave her authority to approve aesthetic changes, coordinate vendor communication, manage photography priorities, and shape the event narrative for future promotional use. My throat closed. Event narrative. That was what she had called my life. An event narrative. Then I reached page 4. There was a section called Image Rights and Featured Couple Content. My name was listed once in small print under Legal Bride. Madison's name appeared 3 times. As creative director. As featured planner. And then, in one line that made the room spin, as primary female subject for select styled images. I pushed back from the desk so hard the chair hit the wall. Erin covered her mouth. My mother whispered, "Dear God." Daniel stood in the office doorway, pale and furious. "You're taking it out of context," he said. I turned around slowly. How do I take that out of context? He rubbed both hands through his hair, breathing hard. It was for her business. She needed a portfolio. It wasn't supposed to hurt you. Something inside me cracked open, but not in the way I expected. I did not collapse. I did not scream. I suddenly became very clear. "You sold pieces of my wedding to her," I said. Without telling me. His voice softened, and somehow that made me hate him more. "I thought you'd understand eventually." "No," I said. "You thought I'd be married by then." He looked away, and there it was. The quiet truth. He had not planned to tell me before the wedding because before the wedding I still had choices. Afterward, I would have legal ties, shared accounts, combined families, public embarrassment, and 100 reasons to swallow the pain. Afterward, leaving would cost more. That was the part that finally scared me. Not the cheating, not the dress, not even Madison's sick little fantasy. It was realizing Daniel had counted on my shame to keep me quiet. I opened the banking folder attached to the email. There were 3 invoices from Madison Pierce Events. 2 were marked paid. 1 was still pending. Total amount, $10,000. The payments had come from the card I used for wedding deposits, the card Daniel kept promising he would help pay down after the honeymoon. My honeymoon. A trip he had helped Madison choose because she knew boutique hotels. I clicked into another folder labeled Visual Timeline. Inside were mock-ups for wedding photos. Madison standing beside Daniel under oak trees. Madison adjusting his boutonniere. Madison in a pale champagne gown I had never approved. Madison and Daniel in what the document called an intimate editorial moment. My name was barely anywhere. I was the bride, technically. But in their plan, I had become background. A legal detail. A woman useful for the ceremony, the guest list, and the money. Then Daniel said the worst thing he could have said. "Claire, you're being selfish." I turned toward him. He looked exhausted now, like I was the one making everything harder. "Madison has nothing," he said. "You know that. She's been alone for years. This could change her life." I stared at the man I almost married. And for the first time, I saw him without the soft lighting my love had put around him. He was not confused. He was not trapped between two women. He was a man who had decided my pain was an acceptable price for Madison's dream. My mother reached for my shoulder. "Baby," she said quietly, "start saving everything." So I did. I forwarded the contract to myself. I took screenshots of every invoice. I downloaded the timeline, the photo mock-ups, the payment records, and every email where Madison had signed my name like it belonged to her. Daniel watched me do it, his face changing from anger to alarm. "Claire," he said, "you don't want to make this legal." I looked up from the keyboard. That sentence was not a warning. It was a threat wrapped in concern. Before I could answer, a new email appeared at the top of the inbox. It was from the venue. Subject line: urgent. Bride name change request requires final approval. I opened it. The message was short, polite, professional, and absolutely horrifying. It said the venue could not process the requested name change on the wedding contract without a notarized signature from me. Attached below was a document. My signature was already on it. I stared at the signature until my eyes started burning. It was mine, or at least, it was close enough to scare me. The curve of the C was wrong, and the line under my last name was too heavy, but to anyone who did not know me, it probably looked real. It looked like a rushed signature from a stressed bride who trusted everyone around her. And maybe that was the point. Daniel stepped closer to the desk, his voice dropping into that soft, careful tone he used when he wanted me to calm down before I understood too much. "Claire, nobody was trying to steal anything from you." I turned around in my chair and looked at him. "My name," I said. "My money. My wedding. My signature." What exactly was left? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For once, Daniel had no clean sentence ready. My mother leaned over my shoulder, reading the document line by line. Her face went pale when she saw the notary section at the bottom, because someone had already filled in the date, the county, and the name of a woman I had never met. Erin pulled out her phone. "I know a lawyer," she said. "A real estate attorney. Not exactly wedding fraud, but he'll know who to call." Daniel snapped his head toward her. "You're blowing this up for no reason." Erin looked at him like he had become a stranger in front of her. "No reason," she said. "There is a forged signature on a venue contract." That word made the room go still. Forged. Until she said it out loud, I had been standing beside the truth without touching it. Now there it was. A crime-shaped word sitting in the middle of my home. Daniel's face hardened. "You don't know Madison did that." I almost laughed again, but this time there was no humor in me. "You're defending her right now?" He looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. "I'm saying we don't know everything." "No," I said. "I don't know everything. You know plenty." That landed. His eyes dropped for half a second, just long enough to betray him. My mother noticed too. She stepped beside me and folded her arms. "Daniel, get out of this house." He looked from her to Erin, then back to me, searching for the old Claire. The one who apologized when someone else cried. The one who explained her feelings carefully so nobody felt attacked. The one who confused peace with love. But she was not there anymore. At least not in that moment. Something colder had taken her place. "Leave," I said. His expression changed, and for the first time, I saw real anger under all his polished charm. "You think canceling a wedding 3 weeks out is simple," he said. "You think people won't ask questions? My parents already paid for the rehearsal dinner. Your mother invited half of Raleigh. Your coworkers know. Everyone knows." There it was. Shame. The leash he thought would hold me. I stood up slowly. Then everyone can know why. His mouth opened slightly. He had not expected that. For months, maybe longer, he had been counting on my fear of humiliation. He thought I would protect the image, the invitations, the deposit money, the smiling photos, the story we had sold to everyone around us. But there is a strange freedom in being publicly destroyed. Once the worst thing is already happening, you stop negotiating with it. Daniel grabbed his keys from the counter, but before he left, he looked back at me with a bitterness I still remember. Madison warned me you'd make yourself the victim. That one sentence cut deeper than I wanted it to. Not because it was true. Because I could hear how many conversations had happened without me. I could hear Madison's voice in his head, shaping me into the villain of my own betrayal. Dramatic Claire. Controlling Claire. Selfish Claire. The woman who had too much and still would not share. My mother pointed toward the front door. Out. Daniel left without another word. When the door closed behind him, my knees finally gave out. I sat on the floor of my office, surrounded by printed contracts, screenshots, invoices, and pieces of a wedding that suddenly felt like evidence from someone else's life. For a few minutes, nobody said anything. My mother sat beside me on the floor, even though her knees were bad. Erin stayed at the desk, forwarding files, saving attachments, building a folder with my name on it like she was trying to hold my future together with PDFs. Then my phone lit up. Madison. I almost ignored it, but something in me wanted to hear her without Daniel standing there. I answered and said nothing. She was crying before I even breathed. Claire, please don't ruin my life. That was what she said. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I hurt you. Not, I crossed a line. Please don't ruin my life. I closed my eyes. You tried to take mine. She made a wounded sound, like I had been cruel. I was desperate, she whispered. You don't know what it's like to watch everyone move ahead while you stay invisible. I looked at the wedding photo mock-ups on my computer screen. Madison in champagne satin. Madison beside Daniel. Madison centered in my life, like she had always believed she belonged there. You weren't invisible, I said quietly. You were trusted. For the first time, she stopped crying. There was silence on the line. Then her voice changed. It became lower. Sharper. Be careful, Claire. My mother looked at me. Erin froze at the desk. Madison continued, each word soft enough to sound almost kind. You start telling people I forged things, and I'll tell them exactly how unstable you've been. Daniel has messages. I have messages. Everyone knows you've been overwhelmed. My skin went cold. There it was. The backup plan. Not just stealing my wedding. Not just slipping herself into my dress, my photos, my money, and my fiancé's heart. She had been building a case against me. The stressed bride. The emotional bride. The woman too overwhelmed to remember what she approved. I put the phone on speaker. Say that again, I said. Madison went silent. She knew. She understood too late that my mother and Erin were listening. Then, from somewhere behind Madison, I heard a man's voice. Not Daniel. Older. Angrier. Madison, what the hell is this charge on my Amex? My breath caught. Madison whispered, Dad, not now. Then the line went dead. Erin and I stared at each other. My mother stood up slowly. And on my computer, another email arrived. This one was from Madison's father. Subject line. Claire, we need to talk. I opened Madison's father's email with my heart beating so hard it felt physical. His name was Robert Pierce, and I had only met him twice before. Once at Madison's 30th birthday dinner, where he paid the check without smiling, and once at my engagement party, where he shook Daniel's hand like he was inspecting a used car. He was a quiet man, wealthy in that old Charleston way where nobody talked about money, because everyone already knew it was there. His email was only 3 sentences. Claire, I believe my daughter may have involved you in something you did not approve. I need to understand what charges were made under your wedding accounts. Please call me before this becomes uglier than it already is. I read it twice. Then I looked at my mother. He knows something, I said. Erin pulled her chair closer. Or he just found out she used his card too. That thought made my stomach turn, because until then, I had believed Madison's plan centered on me. My wedding, my fiancé, my dress, my money. But now it looked wider than that, like I had only seen one hallway in a house full of locked rooms. I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Claire," he said, and his voice sounded tired in a way that made him seem older than I remembered. "I'm sorry this is how we're speaking." I did not know what to say to that, so I said the only true thing I had. "What did Madison do?" There was a long pause. Then he exhaled slowly. "She told me she was launching a wedding design business," he said. "She said you had hired her officially, and that Daniel had agreed to invest because you believed in her talent." My eyes closed. Even after everything, the lie still found a new way to hurt me. "She said I hired her? She sent me a contract," he continued. "Your name was on it. Daniel's too. She said the event would be photographed for her portfolio, and she needed temporary charges covered until vendor reimbursements cleared." Temporary charges. That phrase sounded exactly like Madison. Pretty words over ugly choices. "How much?" I asked. He went quiet again. $17,000. My mother made a sound beside me. Aaron whispered, "Jesus." I felt strangely calm, but it was not peace. It was the numbness that comes when your brain stops trying to react to every injury because there are too many arriving at once. Robert continued, his voice tighter now. "I confronted her after I saw another charge today. A private dinner. Clothing. Floral styling. A luxury rental studio. She told me you knew everything." I looked at the email folders still open on my desktop. I thought of Madison crying in the bridal shop, pretending to be horrified by the wrong dress. I thought of her hand hovering over the lace like it was already hers. I thought of Daniel telling me I was selfish because Madison had nothing. "She told everyone I knew," I said quietly. Robert did not answer right away. Then he said, "I need to ask you something uncomfortable." My fingers tightened around the phone. "Go ahead." "Did you ever sign anything giving Madison creative control over your wedding?" "No." "Did you ever authorize her to use your wedding images for her business?" "No." "Did you approve a name change request with the venue?" My throat closed around the answer. "No." His voice changed after that. It became colder, businesslike. I suspected as much. For the first time all day, I felt something other than fear. A thin thread of support, maybe. Or proof that I was not crazy. Robert asked me to forward everything I had. The forged document, the invoices, the portfolio contract, the photography mock-ups, the venue email, and any messages where Madison threatened me. Aaron helped me organize the files into one folder while my mother sat beside me, rubbing slow circles into my back like I was 12 years old again and had come home from school humiliated. Then Robert said something that made the room go still. "Claire, there's something else." I stopped moving. "What?" "Madison told me Daniel was leaving you before the wedding," he said. "She said the ceremony was being postponed, and they were going to announce a professional collaboration first." For a moment, I could not understand the sentence. Leaving me before the wedding. Postponed. Professional collaboration. Those words did not match the invitations on my fridge, or Daniel's tux fitting, or the way he had kissed me that morning before work and told me not to forget the final catering payment. "When did she tell you that?" I asked. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Daniel had been lying in bed beside me, scrolling through honeymoon hotels and asking whether I wanted ocean view or garden view. 2 weeks ago, I had ordered custom thank you cards with our married initials embossed in gold. 2 weeks ago, Madison had come over with wine and told me she could not wait to stand beside me. I pressed one hand against my mouth because the betrayal suddenly had a timeline. They were not slipping. They were preparing. Robert's voice softened slightly. "I am not defending my daughter," he said. "But I think Daniel promised her something." My mother leaned closer, listening. "What kind of promise?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. But she believed he was going to publicly choose her once the business launch made sense. I almost laughed because it was so cruelly perfect. Madison had not only tried to replace me in the wedding. She thought the wedding was her audition. And Daniel had let her believe that because it kept her useful. That realization hit me differently. For the first time, Madison did not look powerful in my mind. She looked used too. Not innocent. Never innocent. But used. Daniel had taken her envy, her loneliness, her hunger to be seen, and turned it into a weapon that pointed directly at me. After I hung up, Erin sat back in the chair and rubbed her eyes. "We need to cancel everything tonight," she said. "Before they move more money, more contracts, more anything." The word cancel made my chest ache. Not because I still wanted the wedding. Because canceling it meant admitting it had ever been real enough to lose. My mother squeezed my hand. "Baby, we are not canceling your life," she said. "We are canceling their access to it." So we started. Venue first. Then photographer. Then florist. Then caterer. Every call felt like tearing down a house I had built with my own hands. But with every password changed and every card removed, I felt a little more air return to my lungs. Some vendors were kind. Some were awkward. One quietly admitted Madison had been very assertive about changing the creative direction. The photographer was the one who broke me. When I explained that Madison had no authority to approve private images, the woman went silent. Then she said, "Claire, I am so sorry. She told us you were uncomfortable being photographed and that you wanted her to help carry the visual story." I closed my eyes. There it was again. My erasure, packaged as my choice. By midnight, my wedding folder had become a fraud folder. My phone was full of screenshots, missed calls from Daniel, and one voicemail from Madison I refused to play. My mother fell asleep on the couch with her shoes still on. Erin made coffee none of us drank. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Daniel. One text. "Open the front door. We need to talk before Madison gets here." I did not open the front door. That was the first smart thing I did that night. For years, I had believed every serious conversation deserved a face-to-face ending. I thought mature women opened doors, listened calmly, let people explain, and tried to leave things with dignity. But by then, dignity had already left the room. What I needed was proof. Erin looked at Daniel's text, then immediately turned on the porch camera from my security app. My mother stood behind me with her arms crossed, fully awake now, her face hard in the blue glow of my phone. Daniel was on my porch. His tie was gone, his hair was messy, and he kept looking toward the street like someone was following him. He knocked once, then leaned close to the doorbell camera. "Claire," he said, forcing his voice low. "Open the door. Madison is out of control." I almost laughed. Hours earlier, he had defended her. Now she was out of control. That was how fast loyalty changed when the lies stopped protecting him. I pressed the talk button and said, "Whatever you need to say it there." His face tightened. "Don't record me." Erin whispered, too late. Daniel looked toward the driveway again. "She has documents," he said. "She's trying to make it look like I planned everything." I didn't. I made mistakes, but she's dangerous, Claire. My chest felt hollow. Not because I believed him. Because I finally understood his pattern. When Madison was useful, she was wounded. When I asked questions, I was unstable. Now that Madison might expose him, she was dangerous. Everyone became a label when Daniel needed an exit. A car turned onto my street, too fast for a quiet neighborhood. Headlights swept across my living room wall, and my mother reached for my hand. Madison's white SUV stopped behind Daniel's truck. She got out still wearing the same clothes from the bridal shop, but she looked completely different now. Her hair was pulled back badly, mascara sat under her eyes, and she held a folder against her chest like it was the last thing keeping her upright. Daniel turned toward her. "What are you doing here?" he snapped. Madison laughed, and the sound was so broken it barely sounded human. "You told me to come." "No, I told you to stop texting. You told me we needed to get our story straight." My breath caught. Erin's fingers flew across her phone, saving the camera clip. Daniel stepped closer to Madison, lowering his voice, but the porch microphone caught enough. "You forged her signature, Madison." "Not me." Madison stared at him. Then her face changed in a way I will never forget. It was not shock. It was the look of a woman realizing she had been stupid in the exact way she thought only other women were stupid. "You said she would never fight it," Madison whispered. Daniel froze. My mother squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Madison kept going, louder now. You said once the wedding happened, she would be too embarrassed to undo everything. You said she cared too much about what people thought. Daniel lunged for the folder. Madison stepped back and screamed, "Don't touch me." That was when my mother called 911. Everything after that happened in pieces. Blue lights reflecting on my windows. Daniel pacing near his truck, trying to look calm. Madison sitting on the curb, crying into her hands. An officer asking me if I felt safe. Me saying no and realizing I meant it. I handed over screenshots, emails, the forged venue form, and the porch video. Robert arrived 20 minutes later, pale and furious, and when Madison saw him, she stopped crying like a child caught with matches. He did not hug her. He just said, "Madison, you need a lawyer." That sentence ended whatever fantasy she still had left. The wedding did not happen. 3 weeks later, September 14th came anyway, because dates do not care what they were supposed to mean. I woke up that morning in my mother's guest room in Raleigh, with no dress, no vows, no honeymoon suitcase, and no man beside me promising forever. For the first hour, I just stared at the ceiling. Then my mother knocked softly and came in with coffee. She did not tell me to be strong. She did not say everything happened for a reason. She just sat on the edge of the bed and said, "You are still here." And somehow, that was enough. The legal mess took months. Some vendors refunded what they could. Madison's father covered several charges because his card had been used too, and because I think guilt made him faster than any attorney could have. The venue confirmed the name change request had been fraudulent. Daniel's family sent one short apology, then disappeared into silence. Daniel tried to call me for weeks. At first, he sounded sorry, then angry, then sorry again. I blocked him after he left a voicemail saying, "You know, I never meant for it to go this far." That was the problem. People say that when they were fine with every small step before the disaster. Madison sent one email months later. No apology, just a long explanation about loneliness, pressure, envy, and feeling like I had the life she deserved. I read half of it, then closed my laptop. For years, I thought cruelty had to look loud. I thought betrayal arrived with shouting, lipstick on collars, hotel receipts, dramatic confessions, things you could point to and understand immediately. But sometimes betrayal wears your maid of honor robe. Sometimes it carries your emergency lipstick, knows your passwords, hugs your mother, and says, "Let me handle it. You deserve peace." And sometimes the person you almost marry does not steal your life in one huge act. He hands pieces of it away while smiling at breakfast. I did rebuild. Not quickly. Not beautifully. Some mornings, I still felt embarrassed by how much I had missed. But little by little, I changed every password, paid down what remained, sold the townhouse, and moved to a smaller place near the water where nobody knew me as the woman whose best friend tried to take her wedding. The last thing I kept was the original invitation. Not because I missed him, because I needed to remember the version of myself who believed love meant unlimited access. Now, when someone asks for my passwords, my money, my silence, or my trust before they have earned it, I do not explain myself into guilt anymore. I just say no, and I let that be a complete sentence.